I'm Greer McGeary, President of Seahorse Victoria. With me, my guest is Sue Dymond, the owner of SD Connect. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Greer. Thank you for having me.
What is SD Connect?
SD Connect is a company that supports people with disabilities to live their best life. I have a daughter who is 32 years old and she has Down syndrome, and when she was little, I decided that if this child's going to come home with me, she's going to have to be taught how to be independent. And I fought the system, still do fight the system to a degree, but the NDIS has made it better. I fought the system to make sure that the square peg into the round hole was not going to work for my daughter.
For a parent, as you say, having a square peg in a round hole or vice versa, is that a sense of just sheer frustration with the way you perceive that others deal with your daughter?
Not even a matter of how others deal with Chloe. It's more that people with disabilities are a bit of a bother at times, so we just set up systems. And the systems are set for one particular style. And if you don't actually fit into the style, well then there's nothing for you. You have to make yourself fit into the style. Might add, this is well and truly before the NDIS, but the National Disability Insurance Scheme. But it is also very much the NDIS is going back to that old way of, no, you can't be you. You must fit in.
That's sort of a bit disappointing in some ways. Interpreting with it what you've already said, is there's sort of a difference between, is it integration into a system, or is it more about inclusion in society?
Integration and inclusion, they are two words that people, I believe, get very confused with. We all talk about wanting integration, and to me integration is society adjusting so that people who have difficulties or have disabilities or whatever, it doesn't just have to be people with disabilities, there's so many minorities, the society adjusts to be able to make them welcome. Whereas integration is they're in the society, so that's it. And I find even now, today, in this world, in Australia, I should say, what I find is people think that we're a really strong country with inclusion. But no, we're not, because society does not adjust for people who are different. They expect the people who are different to adjust to fit into society. What we have a lot of is integration. And to me, integration is, for example, people with disabilities. You'll see people with disabilities and a provider in the shopping centre. They're integrated. They're in community. No, they're not. They've got this great big invisible barrier around them that says, don't go near them. They're disabled.
So it's like taking it, we're going to the zoo and we're passing through and look at all those shops there, sort of you're close to the shops, therefore you must be integrated.
Therefore you must be included.
Right.
And then people also see inclusion as, well, I'm an inclusive organisation. I have a ramp. I have a white door. I have a disability toilet. But we don't stop and think that that is a minority of people with a disability. Not all people have a physical disability. And therefore, inclusion has to involve people who, for example, can't read, people who can't speak properly, can't speak clearly. There's so many types of disabilities that we can't just decide that inclusion is the easy way out by fixing a building.
What I might do to add to where you're going with that part of the conversation is to go back to when Chloe was born and you realised she was Down syndrome. What was sort of going through your mind with how you're going to cope?
Oh dear, a freight train. Chloe was my greatest fear realised at that time. Absolute greatest fear. And I've written a book about Chloe and I've written a book about raising her to independence, and in that it's quite a raw book. For 9 months of my pregnancy, I told my GP that if this child had Down syndrome, I'm not taking it home. And although that was a horrendous thing to say, it's a powerful, powerful lesson for me, because it really taught me the danger of ignorance. fear with ignorance. I decided to keep her when I was told, and I was told really early because my poor GP had to deliver her. And he realised that she had Down syndrome, and I looked skywards and thought, well, if I'm going to, I'll take on the challenge. I'll take on the challenge, and she ain't living with me for the rest of her life. That is not happening. From that day on, I decided I was going to raise Chloe to be the best human being that she could possibly be.
We can only sort of surmise how you felt at the time, and you really give a powerful sense of your own determination to make her the best person, as you say. So what were the specific challenges that you had in determining the difference between, say, we've touched on the integration and inclusion. When did you start to sort of understand that difference?
Fairly early. Chloe went to a organisation called Biala, and that was for early intervention. So she'd go there for early intervention a couple of days a week from when she was about 2. And that had all of the therapies, and there was groups of other children there. But once she hit kindergarten, she went to mainstream kinder. And that's when I start to notice the difference, because at the early intervention centre, everybody talked and everybody played together. At the kinder, Chloe went to the kinder. Chloe had to adjust, and I had to be constantly up at the kinder working things out because they couldn't possibly work around her at that time. This is back in the early 90s. And Chloe had no friends. Never. There's not one person from kinder that I can tell you the name of, because nobody played with Chloe really back then. But in her early intervention, she's still friends with all of them. And I guess that to me is inclusion, because inclusion is not just about mainstream. Inclusion is being included wherever you are. I get annoyed sometimes that we have this concept that inclusion means that all people with disability need to be in the mainstream. No, all people with disability or anything, I don't care whether it's people with disability, I don't care whether you're Greek, I don't care what it is, we need to land with our mob. With our mob, we're included. We don't have to live with our mob, but we need to be able to land with it. And at the moment, to me, I get the idea that inclusion has a lot to do with ignoring our mob.
It's interesting you use the term mob, because that sort of touches upon the recent referendum as well as the recent report of the Royal Commission into disabilities. And, you know, in my own case with the trans community, there's enormous pushback in some sense to say you're different and we don't like it. To me, I sort of quite agree with you about inclusion. It's not just being totally with your own mob, but when you go down the street, you're a human being, I'm a human being. I might look this way, you look that way, you're shorter than me, I'm taller than you, you know, all those sorts of things. And Chloe's Down syndrome, so she's got that clearly an obvious difference to others, is that you still treat the person with respect and use your own nous to say, oh, there is a difference, but I'll make an effort to treat you decently.
As a human being.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, Greer, because to be quite honest, it's one of the things Chloe's taught me. Because people are people, but one of Chloe's strengths, she may not be able to read or write. Yeah, no, she's not real good at it. She can figure it out, but she's not real good at it. What Chloe is powerful as a human being is she judges nobody. She does not see colour. She does not see disability. When I say that, I rewind a little bit. She judges all right if you're a nice person or you're not. That is it. It is very simple and Chloe has always just seen people as people. It's what she was born with. And many people with Down syndrome are that way. And the lesson we can learn from people with Down syndrome is learn how to treat people as people. Chloe doesn't care whether you're black, white, brindle, gay, trans, I don't know, other disabilities. She doesn't see it. Yeah. In actual fact, she can speak. She can understand people who don't speak well.
The interesting area there, because in my role with Seahorse, I've spoken to many who are coming out for the first time and dealing with the, you know, perceived issues that may arise, and talk about, by and large, most people don't worry about how you look. They worry more about your behaviour. And that touches on, as you say, are you a nice person or not? That's a person's behaviour, and it's not whether they're, from an Indigenous community or, got only left-footed or whatever. It's an important aspect of, oh, hello, how are you?
100%. And it's interesting with Chloe because what she can pick up on is a person's vibe. So it's not just, are you treating me poorly or are you treating me nicely? No. Chloe actually has a radar for, are you a good person or are you not a good person, no matter what front you put on. So in actual fact, and that's challenging for me because what will happen is she'll act out. Sometimes she'll be incredibly rude to somebody who's having the sugar sweet smile on and being condescending or being pleasant to her, and Chloe's being a real monster back. And it's very hard for me to say, she's picking up on your vibe.
Advocating, for Chloe's inclusion in society as opposed to the just integration. What have you done for yourself to make that easier for you to be able to advocate for her?
Well, many things. One thing I've been really focused on is how to make Chloe the best person she can, and us as a family, because I've been single since she was 2, and she's got a sister who's 10 years older, and I had to work full time. But it wasn't a matter of, oh, well, I have to fit in, so therefore I'll have to give up everything. No, Chloe was a family member, and she was damn well going to be treated like a family member, not as the head of the family. What I did was I was never going to send her to special school. It was always going to be mainstream, and my attitude was very, very strong, very, very narrow on that. And some wise person said, check out the special schools. In the end, she did go to special school. But as I said before, then she went integrated into mainstream holiday programs because she didn't have to compete with mainstream schools for education. She needed to learn how to be social. Then we've had, with people with Down syndrome, and even today it's similar, sadly, I'd love to say it's changed. Be honest, not much. But people see a person with Down syndrome, they assume that she's a infant, like she's got that childlike personality and that she's always loving. We get the, she's always loving, she loves music. You can have her for a week if you want and find out about loving. Because, it depends on how she's raised is what I've found. But therefore, it's a very low ceiling. Sit in the corner and thread. Whereas my daughter, I've never, ever thought for her. And I've made her do things that she doesn't like to do, whether she wants to do it or not, to find out whether she likes it.
So that's what you're doing for her, but what
do
did
I
you
do for me? So what I've done for me, which has been very important, is I create, and this is a bit for both, but it's well and truly for me, wherever I live, I have a village. And the village is not disability village, it's where I live village. And I get everybody, we immerse ourselves with everybody. So I've got most of our neighbours and people in the community that we're connected with, and they support me, they support Chloe as people. So I get people to meet us as people. I also have been connected over the years with disability organisations, Down syndrome organisations. I was on the committee for Down syndrome Victoria. So I get immersed with, not immersed, but I certainly have one mob that has friends and family who have children with disability. The most important thing I've always done for me is kept me separate from Chloe. So that we're not like that. There's no umbilical cord. And because I've taught her to be as she is, we walk side by side, and I am me. I haven't lost my identity. I also do Toastmasters, and that one is big for me. I love Toastmasters for the simple fact that it makes me be me. I'm not someone's mum. I'm not someone's boss. I am just Sue at Toastmasters.
That's interesting because I'm also in Toastmasters too, and we have met each other on many occasions over the years. And as I've said in previous conversations, the thing that I enjoyed about Toastmasters was that inclusion, because it didn't matter what background you came from. everyone was there for the same purpose, and there was no having to explain yourself why I look this way, or you're just you and people react to your behaviour.
I actually think with Toastmasters also, as well as the full inclusion, and it is, I believe, we should use the Toastmasters ethics in politics. Boy, we'd have a great life. Australia would be a very powerful country. But you know what I love about Toastmasters? I've learnt to be tolerant. We sit at Toastmasters meeting, and as well as colour and everything else, we also have different views, different ethics, all sorts of things that are different. And yet it's a very conducive to calm environment. It's supportive of everybody. And being able to sit and listen to some speeches even that are uncomfortable for me, make it so that I open my mind more. And when I open my mind, again, I'm more tolerant, because tolerance is just, to me, a closed mind.
Now, how have you applied that now to the developing the business that you've got, and how that's functioning towards what you're doing for Chloe, or not just Chloe, but for others?
Not so much Chloe anymore, because Chloe leads a very amazing life. She's an amazing human being, and she's very, very included and inclusive. She leads an inclusive and powerful life. How have I included? The reason I started the charity, which was actually after I wrote the book, and that's Waising Miss Chloe is what it's called, because I waised her in her eyes, not raised her. But the reason I started it was because I have a good life. And I have a good life because of the way I raised her, by getting community and making her an independent young person and then woman. And I thought, I want to teach other people how to do this, because a lot of carers of people with disability, it's so hard. And they don't know how to come down. They don't know how to separate themselves from the person, and they get lost. And I thought, raising a person with disability, is it easy? Well, not, but nor is raising a person without disability. So, what's different? But what it does, if we're putting the hard yards when they're younger, it's easier when they're older and we don't lose ourselves. So the whole idea of SD Connect is to teach people, not just people with disabilities, but families, how to live their best life. And generally it means families getting out of the way when they need to, knowing when to get out of the way of the person with disability. But it's also with the NDIS, learning how to get the NDIS to work for you in your life rather than you being a slave in its life, because that's what has happened.
There's a lot of lessons in what you're saying. Is how do you see what you do applying to other areas of life? I would see it as a skill that you've developed in helping your daughter. How is that sort of applicable to
I think
other
it's
people?
a powerful skill for anyone's life, is for anybody, I don't care who you are, to understand that if we're leading our best life and allowing others to lead their best life, whoever they are, then our lives together, singly and together, make powerful world. And I really genuinely believe, one of our biggest issues is we don't know when it's our business and when it's not our business. And we put our nose in businesses that are not our business, don't have our name on it. There's someone once said to me, Sue, is your name on this or not? Because if your name aren't on it, get out of it. And for me, that was important, because I'd go in to fight for my kids. I'd go in to battle this. I'd be going in to, fix their issues and make them happy. But it didn't have my name on it. It was them with their issues with dad or whatever.
Yeah, because one of the things, why you've been talking about the disabilities and the skills that you're in raising your daughter, and how it's applicable to others. I know in my role in Seahorse, social support for trans people, over the years we've had people with different abilities. One that was a member a little over 10 years ago from country Victoria was vision impaired. In actual fact, I think almost totally blind. Was dealing with being a trans person at the same time, coming out, having to deal with it, both an impairment and an obvious change to their life, and has been managed to, with support and that inclusion, through, as you pointed out with your daughter going to the particular before going to kindergarten, going to the specific training, as it were, coming to a social support for trans people and then having the other abilities, has gone on to have a very successful life. And it sort of puzzles me when you hear what's going on with politics and things and the abuse that disabilities had, trans people had, Indigenous people have had. You can almost run out of a list of things
we'll
to
always
do.
find others to add.
That's right. That those basic skills are applicable across all of that.
Absolutely.
And what I'm sort of enjoying about hearing your story to tell others is that with a little bit of effort to say, let's include somebody in participation in life, as opposed to we're forcing this round hole into this square peg, and getting nowhere, or superficially getting somewhere, but not getting the best out of each other as human beings.
I genuinely think, and this comes back to helping everybody, I guess, I genuinely think that we need to become more flexible, mentally, emotionally and physically more flexible. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a mum of one of my clients yesterday, and she was saying that her son has autism, and Chloe actually does this as well. He speaks a lot. He's got friends that no one can see. And of course, with Chloe and generally with people who talk a lot, who have intellectual disability, what they're doing is they haven't got the function to be able to think and work the thinking out in their mind. So they have to think it out in front of them in words. And he got this job working with computers. Very good at what he's doing. But because he was speaking to himself while he's trying to figure things out, they had to stop him working there because he was distracting the other work. Now, to me, that's not inclusion. They call themselves an inclusive organisation. No, because you're telling somebody to stop doing what they're doing because it's annoying people. Maybe if you were more flexible and got things, either headphones or the little ring things that loops you can put in your ears to block out the noise, then this person who isn't able to stop their process of thinking is able to be included and everyone else is comfortable. And for me, oh my goodness, Chloe's two best friends, which I've done speeches on Chloe's two best friends, their names Jane and Michael, and no one can see them. They are my best friends because I find out everything that Chloe does, thinks, and is about to do through Jane and Michael, through ear listening in on their conversations.
One of the reasons I sort of joined Toastmasters was not to explain myself. And I find that I've been taking that approach. I've made a lot of friends through Toastmasters, and I'm there purely for myself in a sense, but I can give back to others through doing things within the group to help others learn skills. And it mirrors exactly what you're doing through your personal experience with your daughter, but now you've got a business that's helping others to do it. That really is an important lesson for all of us. And I think one of the things that I've was hoping to get out of the conversation today was showing that another aspect of life, which is not specifically trans, but how those lessons apply both to trans community, apply to, just every part of life, really, just so-called normal people.
Whatever that may be.
That's right. But it's a term that's used by people to put down other people.
I think that one of the most important things where it goes across all my beliefs and my concepts, where it goes across every single type of person or people that there are, is if we have somebody who can teach us how to believe in ourselves, to be our best person, just somebody, doesn't have to be the world, we're actually able to make a change in the world. I mean, you talk about my business. Chloe has her own business as well, because Chloe is a really competent. No, competent.
Mm.
She's an award-winning artist.
Yeah.
Definitely award-winning artist.
On that really lovely thought from, making the world a better place, from just what you've said there and how it's been applicable both to yourself and your daughter Chloe, thank you for joining me in the conversation today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
It's been a delight to be able to sit here and have the conversation with you, Greer. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm Greer McGeary. My guest has been Sue Dymond.